Hello everyone, welcome to week 9 of 12 weeks of volunteering at Godsway. I'm currently in Sydney at the moment. This is a recap of week 2 of my 3 weeks in Sydney, so I'm entering into the third week, or I've entered into the third week, should I say. And also this video, I'm starting to experiment with doing smaller videos of the teachings or the learning, should I say, as I go through them throughout the week, and then putting that together in a longer video, just because I find, for a couple of reasons. One, it's easier for me to remember. And also two, I find that because there is so much, well, maybe there's 3, I find that there is so much that happens throughout the week that to remember the fullness of them, I find challenging and doesn't really get the full, or convey, I guess you could say, which is my desire, is to convey the full as much as I can in what I learn and what I experience throughout my weeks, and so that's a part of my reason for this. And then thirdly as well, I remember when I first started this journey, honestly and sincerely and genuinely desiring to do this, and that, when I was in that place, it was just this kind of overwhelming feeling of like, oh my gosh, there's just so much. Like, where do I even begin? There's so much sin. There's so much, like, how do I even begin to rectify where I'm at, what I've done, like my sin, how it's impacted other people, the choices that I've made, how it's impacted everything, and then also making loving choices moving forward. It was not only overwhelming, but it was so big that I also had these feelings of there's just not enough time, and how everything feels so big that I feel like I'm going to be crying all the time. And how do I live my life? And Jesus and Mary are actually in the US at the moment. I'll link the video below so you can have a listen if you would like. But and I was listening to this yesterday, and it just sort of sparked my awareness to share around, because someone actually asked that question as well. And I remember thinking like, yeah, I remember having those feelings myself. And I think maybe sometimes they're still there as well, but this is what it looks like. I think I had, from memory, I had feelings that it would look like tending to one thing at a time and not being able to move, through onto something else until I was completely resolved on that one thing. And that's not been my experience at all. My experience has really shown me, that might be some other people's experience, but it hasn't been mine. When I decided to just go, do you know what? I don't know how it's going to look or how I'm going to do it, but I know that I just need to start. I know that I just need to take a step in that direction, and I can't go back the other way because I've been there living my life, and I just can't do that anymore. I'm not honestly genuinely happy. I know that there's more in my soul. I don't have an honest, genuine connection with God, and I don't have love in my life, let alone in my soul. And I just had to, I feel like I just had to, I just chose to trust in what it would look like and what that journey was, and just put one foot in front of the other in what each day looked like and what each day brought me. And it was really messy. It literally was like, probably the best way I could describe it is that initially And I mean, I'm still in the initial phases. But initially it felt like as I did that, like I was being like splattered with this mud, like splattered, like everyone had these like, yeah, I was just being like splattered with this mud that was just kind of like, if anyone's played, this is probably the best description that I can use, like played skirmish or paintballs, where you just like, you know, you got a paintball gun, you're in this gear, and they just like try to like splatter you, and there's like paintballs, when it splatters, it just like splatters over your mask, and like, you know, your eye is like you can't see through your eye unless you wipe the paintball away, you know, unless you clean it basically as you go. And obviously, yeah, so that's kind of the feeling that it felt like. But actually, obviously, this was all of the mud that was inside of me always, that I was just seeing for myself as I took each step, as I went through each day. And so the process for me has been, life and God's laws have really, my law of attraction has shown me what I need to work on, is probably the best way to say it. With every choice that I make, it then surfaces an injury or a sin. And then I feel my feelings around that. And then that shifts something, and then opens something, you know, something else up. And then it's like the cycle repeats itself. And so it's been many, I feel, many issues and sins that I feel like I'm working on throughout the week, rather than necessarily just this one specific topic. I do feel that they all connect and relate into a bigger specific issues. But there are all of these little things. And essentially, initially, I had these feelings of, okay, basically, what do I need to work on? How can I work on it? You know, trying to intellectually understand it, basically, rather than actually just saying, actually, I'm just going to take the action, and this is what ended up happening. I just need to take some action, which was me going to volunteer, choosing to volunteer, put my stuff in, pack up my home that I had realized I had such an attachment to, because I didn't want to let it go. Pretty much the things that I didn't want to let go, I realized actually were attachments and weren't loving and pure things, and were oftentimes very much either spirit influenced or had a lot of sin in them. And, you know, up until I left, that was relationships and friendships in my life. And then the very last straw that broke the camel's back was, I guess you could say, yeah, like the last thing to crumble was my home here in Sydney, because up until living in that home, I had probably not spent longer than 6 to 12 months in a home or in one place. And so this home now, I was in it for a couple of years, and I felt so safe, so secure. Yeah, it's like I had all those feelings, but actually I realized that all those feelings were not real. I was getting them off of the home, but I was also getting them off the spirits who were trying to keep me in that place, which was also in Sydney, rather than having me volunteer at Godsway and be around people who actually genuinely were desiring the same thing, were desiring the same things that I desire, is to have a relationship with God and to actually just live more honestly and more lovingly, and whatever that looks like. And then and I'm not, the imperfect journey that also looks like, as well, because it actually has, for me, been felt quite messy. But to also be around people who genuinely desire to want to try and love me genuinely, and care, be caring, because that's what they desire for themselves and in their own lives. And this is something that I didn't have in Sydney. It's very, very, very much lacked in my life. I wouldn't say always, but the friendships that I had prior to going to Godsway, I'm still being shown just how lacking in love they actually have been. And it's, it's all because we don't have these, we don't know what love we don't have that understanding of what that actually is, which is why I feel like it's so important to have an experience at Godsway where you are around people who are desiring that, and also you're able to get an embodied experience of it, like an experiential feel, like you're able to experience it. Something that Jesus and Mary say about God's laws is that one of the principles is taking action, and I really feel like visiting Godsway and experiencing being there around everyone there, and just participating and volunteering at Godsway was the action that I needed to take, because I was so afraid of it, and all of these excuses would come up, and I would get stories fed to me by spirits that it's not the right thing, or it's not the right timing, or I don't have enough money, or I don't have anywhere to stay, or all of these reasons why I shouldn't or why I couldn't. And it was all just preventing me from going and experiencing the truth and having just so much more love, like what is genuinely loving. Yeah, and so that is probably, just what my journeys looked like. Is, initially it was just like really messy, and it has felt really messy, and I've just had to feel my way through it as I go, and surrender the fact that I don't know what's actually happening, and I don't need to know. But as I've felt everything that's come up, it's really shown me what's there. I thought I was going there for XYZ, but actually I realized as I've been there, it's shown me the issues that are really have been really contributing to my life being the way that it was. And something Jesus said yesterday, which also came up emotionally for me yesterday, was these feelings of, I'm 38 years old, I'm 39 in January, and I just have been having these feelings of how, because I feel like I've been reborn and I'm sort of starting again as a child. That's what it actually feels like, in a way. And the feelings have been essentially around feeling so old and not, my time's over, not having, I guess, done in my life, I guess it has been like these feelings of regret, you know, and something Jesus mentioned yesterday, which felt like it was connected into this, was how we can spend so much of our life trying to avoid the things that we actually truly need to deal with. And so we then go to the next program, and then that program lasts us for a certain period of time. And then we go to, you know, then our pain and suffering starts to come up again. And so then we go to the next thing, and then our pain and suffering, that lasts us for another little while. And then we go to the next thing because, you know, and it's like we spend so much money on courses. We spend so much money on programs. We spend so much money on moving locations, on you know, changing friendships groups. Like all of these ways and how we live our life are just ways of wanting to deny and avoid what's actually really there. And I really feel that although I've had, you know, a lot of experiences in my life, I've been really feeling how it's taken me 38 years to have a genuine or desire, I guess you could say, which is, I'm still purifying, and for a relationship with God, and that actually is the only thing that I need to have. And as a result as well, you know, prior to this, financially, it would impact my money because of my avoidance of wanting to feel my emotions and remain in denial and delusion. I would spend my money on pointless things. It wouldn't go to meaningful things. I never had any money. I didn't feel like I ever had any money. I didn't have loving friendships and relationships to the depth and realness that I felt like I desired to have. And yeah, I just felt like I was constantly chasing my tail and chasing something that I never could find. And since participating in God's way, I have had the most money, or stability is probably the best way to describe it, because it's not financial stability, it's the feeling of stability. I've had the most stability that I've ever felt like I've had in my entire life, which has then impacted my spendings because I'm doing something that I love, and that's, you know, I don't always love it. It can sometimes be really uncomfortable and really challenging. But it's truthful, and I'm not eating away my feelings. I'm not spending away my feelings. I'm not, you know, and so as a result, I've been able to either not just live week to week, but either save some money or actually pay off my debts. I've paid off more of my debts, I would say, in the past 7 weeks than I have in, and I haven't even, like, I've only just kind of had a job, I guess you could say, in the past, you know, month. Like, I've paid off more of my debt in the past, since being there, 7 weeks prior to leaving, than I had over, like, I would say 6 to 12 months of actually having it. Just because my money wasn't actually going on crap, through my addictions of trying to feel better, trying to feel the truth, trying to feel love. Basically, it was all just trying to get love. But because I'm actually getting love through people being honest with me, and the humility in practice days reflecting back truth, and also actually truthful, honest, genuine, loving relationships, which aren't always comfortable, by the way. Actually, yeah, that's it. It's just been incredibly humbling, and just beautiful to see how, you know, that's God's laws. Like, this is, and I still haven't figured it out. I don't know what it is, whether it's like yeah, I don't know what law it is, but it just feels like, because I have had this sincere desire to really make changes and to take the action on that. Um, I've been, this is, I want to say like I've been lovingly rewarded, but I don't think it's that at all. I feel like it's, I feel like this is how it works, is like, when there is a sincere desire and then an action taken in that direction, this is the laws that God has created. And it reminds me of when Jesus talks about money in general, and donation based rather than the world that we've created. It makes sense that living without money can actually is the most loving thing, and that we are supported in that way because I'm being shown I'm being shown it. So that's been a beautiful, gosh, there's just been so many things, a beautiful byproduct of, like, I didn't expect that to happen. I didn't expect that at all to happen. Yeah, and since I've gone out there, the beautiful things that I have experienced other than that is, it's like trying to take more responsibility for myself, having a sincere desire for, or genuinely desiring to be more loving is probably the most honest way, because I don't feel like I always want to be loving. I don't feel like I always want to have a sincere desire with God. I don't feel like I actually always want a relationship with God. And these are some things that I, God knows. And that I, also am working through as well. But the byproducts of it all, it's like God knows where everything that I have desired, or not where it is, but my true desires are also coming. I'm being gifted them by being just more loving. And that's like, the monetary thing that I just shared, the financial pieces, because that has actually honestly been a big thing throughout my life, is not feeling triggered when around money. And that's whether I have it or whether I don't have it, having these feelings of when I don't have it, on edge of when it's going to next come in. And when I do have it, not having this clinging to it because I'm so petrified that, of like spending it, because it's like I cling to it, like not having those feelings either. And so there's been, those beautiful experiences with money and finances, but also friendships, really honest, loving friendships, and people who genuinely, it's like because of my desire to be out there, or to have just to have more love. I don't know what it is. To be more loving, to learn, like truthfully and honestly, it's reflected back to me these beautiful, beautiful things. And it's just it's just beautiful. There's so much more that I could just share that I don't yet have words for, but initially it felt quite messy, and just seeing how that was actually always there underneath the surface. All of that mess has been there throughout my life, and even when I was in Sydney, I thought I had my stuff sorted. I thought I had it all sorted, because I didn't feel like I had that mess anymore. You know, life on the outside didn't look messy. And unless we actually truly deal with the real stuff that's there, it doesn't go away. And so that obviously has surfaced because I've wanted to run away from it my entire life. So it's been a really beautiful thing. It's like I've finally gone, okay, do you know what? I'm ready to face it head on. Yeah, and I feel like also just I just feel so passionate. I feel like it's very hard to convey just how different it is participating at Godsway humility and practice days and going out, taking the action to visit Godsway in Wilkesdale, Australia, and participate and volunteer there, compared to me thinking that I was living God's way and implementing the divine truth teachings without having visited there. Polar opposites. Like polar opposites. It's not to say that I, had to chuck everything out, but, and I, didn't, yeah. Unless I feel like, unless I experienced volunteering out there and being around people who want, genuinely desire to live this way as well, I would have remained in a delusion and arrogance because I actually wasn't really truly feeling my feelings. I wasn't really trying, being humble. I thought I was feeling my feelings. I thought I was being humble. I thought I was taking responsibility for myself or for my emotions. And I wasn't. And I thought I was living God's way. But I wasn't. I wasn't at all. I was still living my way because, I was still in this way of I was still living my way. And it's interesting because I can now see that in, in people, who I've been friends with in Sydney, who have had similar desires, who have also been, sort of following, or that's how we connected through divine truth and had desires to visit God's way and, believe in the principles that Jesus and Mary teaches and whatnot. And I've also been able to really see how that, just see that see that firsthand, just complete delusion, just entirely delusion. And it's, and actually the feelings of, primarily anger, that we don't want to feel, and that we really project onto others, and just not wanting to take responsibility, and just all of those things that I just mentioned before. And it's just really fascinating how much more sensitive, even after 7 weeks of being there, that I feel like I've become to not only my emotions, but also feeling other people's emotions around me, and being able to also feel the spirit influence that's working through these people. I'm finding it very fascinating, and just how that then I respond because there's anger with me. My response is to want to shut down, to not want to speak up, to just not want to tell the truth, to shut down, because this is my addiction, is wanting to have a relationship with my friends, right? Because it's not really a relationship with them, because I haven't been real in our friendship, and therefore, they're not obviously being real in our friendship either. So there's just so much, and this is what, law of attraction shows. And then also at, what stage, something that Jesus also speaks about that I'm sort of still journeying through at the moment is, how if you stop your progression for someone that you love, and this is what he said about Mary, is that if he stopped his progression, which I think he said something about like coming down to earth, or I can't remember exactly what it was, in order just to be with Mary, then that wouldn't be loving Mary, and it wouldn't also be progressing their soul. So yeah, he says, if we can't stop our own progression just to keep these like relationships, just for another person, just to keep these like connections. And that's something that he shares about. So I'm like, okay, at what stage, what does that look like in friendships that have been friendships in the past? I'm navigating that. So so I'll stop it here, and there might be more that I add a little bit later on. All right.